Well, yesterday I went out to Dublin Airport to speak to Kenny Jacobs, CEO of the DAA, and I began by putting it to him that because of decisions he and the DAA have made, including too many night flights, they've made life unbearable for some people.
So the permission for the North Runway wasn't linked to the flight paths in particular. There was a number of movements. This is very, very unclear as part of the planning permission. What's also unclear is how you would implement it. And that's why we're looking to change this. Now, that's our view. That's also the view of Fingal County Council. It's the view of ANCA, the noise regulator. That's moving from a number of movements to a noise quota and changing the hours of operation so that we can operate flights on the North Runway up until midnight and from 6 a.m. each day. There is overall, and this is really, really important, there's a 50% reduction this year, this summer, in the number of households impacted by noise compared to 2019. So we've made very good progress. There's more that we need to do, and we'll continue to engage with the community.
But try telling that, I suppose, to Niamh in the film we just saw there. She's a doctor, she understands lots of things about health impacts, and she's saying the noise that she and her family are putting up with, including the noise at the school where her children go, is simply having a dire effect on their health.
And we take that very seriously. And noise, particularly at night time, for kids is really, really important. Look, I'm a parent myself. I live near Dublin Port. We can hear noise sometimes. There will always be an element of noise at an airport. That's a fact of life. What's good is that planes are getting significantly quieter, and what's good is the approach that we're taking. This is a highly regulated industry here in Ireland, and there's a noise regulator, but there's many things that we are doing. You know, we've insulated 150 homes of the 200 homes the noise regulator said that we should. We have a grant scheme of up to 20,000 available for an additional 350.
So will you insulate, for instance, Niamh's home?
We absolutely will go and meet Niamh as we meet people in the community every single week. And if noise is at a certain level, that's about 63 decibels for a sustained period. If there's a level of noise like that, and in this room here now as we're speaking, this is about 40 decibels. But it's when it's at 63 decibels that a household is eligible for insulation. We've insulated a lot of households. We want to do more. And anyone who's genuinely impacted by noise, who has kids and has an issue sleeping, we absolutely will go and meet them and look to insulate their home.
But in fact, the permission you got was based on environmental assessments. And on the basis of that, the flight paths were agreed. You changed that. It's a completely different flight path.
The flight path now that we have today, and the flight path since February of this year, is the intended flight path. So the flight paths are the way they should be, and we have a very high degree of compliance with those flight paths. The condition on the North Runway, which is an onerous condition that we, Fingal and ANCA have agreed is onerous, and that's why all of us want to change it, is based on a number of movements. Now, the number of movements we don't think is the best way to do it, because you could have 65 movements on very old aircraft making far more noise than 150 movements on newer aircraft. So we want to move to a noise quota. That's much, much better, and that's managed between ourselves and the noise regulator.
But do you accept that the flight path you now operate out of the North Runway, the new runway, is different to the one originally planned?
No, the flight path now out of the North Runway is the one that was originally planned. When the North Runway opened up in August, between August and February of this year, there was a slight deviation in the flight path. That was a mistake that we made, that we already apologise, and we do apologise for that period of time. But the flight path today from the North Runway is the flight path that was intended.
But like 20 years ago, there were public consultations involving the public, but there were different maps. There was kind of homes insulated on the basis of a flight path that is now completely different.
That's not the case with the North Runway. So look, we are a good neighbour. We will continue to engage.
Do you accept you're breaking your planning permission?
No, I don't accept that. The planning permission, we think, it could not be implemented as it was. Look, it's totally unfeasible that the planners, when they granted the permission for the North Runway, said, okay, you can go from one runway to two runways, but you have to have the number of movements at night. No one intended that. So the planning permission is very unclear. That's why we're challenging it. And that's why we want to move to a noise noise quota, which is much, much more effective.
What's the point in a noise quota in a way? Because it's just going to end up with more planes. And no plane is quiet, so that's not a solution.
No, I don't think it will necessarily end up in more flights. Look, it's a much more scientific way of managing the noise and monitoring the noise. As I said,
you're saying there wouldn't be more flights?
There may be a small number of flights, but the flights would have restrictions applied to them. They may be certain type of aircraft.
It's noisy.
They would be significantly less noisy aircraft than in the past. So, look, a number of movements is a very archaic and basic way of managing it. You could have 30-year-old aircraft up to 65 movements making 3 times the noise of modern aircraft. So it's not the best way to manage it.
But try saying that to Niamh and Magdalena.
And there's a good chance I will say that to them because I'm out in the community, and we have people out in the community the whole time meeting people that are impacted, including Kilcoskin School that was also shown in the video. So look, we take this very seriously. We want to insulate more homes. We have the grant scheme that will be available as part of the relevant action that's currently within Board and all that. We have purchase homes, so people who are really close to the runway who need to move because the noise is at a certain level. We have purchased their home higher than the market value. We have a community fund of 10 billion that we make available to the community for projects to help reduce noise in schools and in nursing homes and places like that. And we've got 30 noise monitoring systems. Dublin as a capital city is actually much further ahead than the average European capital city when it comes to monitoring and mitigation measures on noise.
But actually, if you take Magdalena, who was in that film, like, her home was supposed to be insulated to stop the noise. It really hasn't at all. And you're flying planes during the night period in excess of your planning permission. How have you allowed that to happen? And we hear from Magdalena the impact it's had on her life and her family's life.
Yes, look, I would need to meet Magdalena, and I'm happy to do that to really understand her specific case, but the flight paths are as they were intended. There was one onerous condition on the planning permission granted for the North Runway. This goes back to 2007 because we, ANCA, the noise regulator, and Fingal have been trying to change this since 2007.
For Magdalena, whose life is currently destroyed by the number of night flights and the noise, and you got permission on the basis that there wouldn't be more than 65, what can you say to her tonight to make her feel more assured that her life will get better?
Look, what I can say is we want to help and we want to support everyone in the community. We need to balance that with the travel needs of the nation and the jobs that are supported and the aspect of Ireland's economy that is supported by Dublin Airport. We're listening. We want to come and evaluate the levels of noise in homes like Magdalena's, and if required at a certain level we will insulate those homes and do that as quickly as we can.
Of course you can have all the insulation in the world, but once you open the windows or once you're outside, children are outside in the school we saw there, the noise is there and it's horrendous.
Yeah, and that's correct. On insulation, generally will bring the noise down by about 80% when you're inside. Now for Kilcoskin School, which you've shown, we are talking to them. We met them as recently as last week. In Tyrrellstown School, for example, we've put an outdoor structure, which is a glass structure, which brings down the noise levels, still allows the children to get fresh air and have protection from the elements. So with Kilcoskin School, which we've shown in the video, that's the type of solution that we would discuss with them, so that the kids are able to go outside and still enjoy the open air space.
But you accept there's still a huge risk to this big infrastructure, the biggest in the land, and you have presided over that.
Look, this is critical infrastructure. 2.3% of Ireland's economy is driven by Dublin Airport. There's 116,000 jobs supported by Dublin Airport. This is a risk that we're managing. This is a risk on which we've made very good progress, and we intend to make further progress with the local community while also balancing the needs of a nation, because our Dublin Airport is driving Ireland's economy. So it's a risk, and it's a risk that we're living with. I think we're managing it well. We've made a mistake with the flight paths from August of last year to February of this year. We've corrected that and we've moved very, very quickly, and we're sorry for that. But the flight paths are as they were intended, and noise will be managed.
Kenny Jacobs speaking to Miriam